And Ose Chairman Sabunsu lent support to the party's Ashanti Regional Chairman in his 30 billion cedi Exim Bank fraud case. And much later on the program, 65% of Ghanaians support President Mohammed's decision not to go for a third term. More from the latest Global Info Analytics poll. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Patriot. Let's begin from the capital city, Accra, because the final batch of Ghanaian evacuees from South Africa has arrived at Kotoka International Airport today, bringing to a close the government's latest voluntary evacuation exercise. The returnees are part of nearly 1,000 Ghanaians who registered with Ghana's High Commission in Pretoria to leave South Africa following renewed anti-foreigner attacks and growing security concerns. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says priority has been given to women, children, and the elderly, students, and persons with underlying medical conditions. It is, however, yet to confirm the exact number of passengers expected on today's flight. The latest operation follows an earlier evacuation exercise between May and June, during which 979 Ghanaians were repatriated in 3 batches as xenophobic violence intensified in parts of South Africa. Let's go live now to the Kotoka International Airport. Our reporter Christian Yale joins us live from Terminal 2. Christian Yale should be joining us very shortly. Let's connect to Christian Yale now. Chris, if you can hear me, what is the situation at Terminal 2 this afternoon?
All right, Beatrice. So the understanding we have right now is that the first group, already I know over the night, a group arrived earlier. The understanding I've obtained from officials here indicates that some even had to sleep over because their destinations are far from Accra. And so they left this morning. Now, the next group, as we are here waiting for them, I know have landed. And so we are waiting for all the due protocols to be done with. Then we would receive them. Currently, we are at the entrance at Terminal 2. We can see from outside where we know that the processes are ongoing to offload the staff, and then the people eventually would get to alight, and then we'll get to receive them. So that is the update that they've landed as it stands. The understanding is that probably later in the day or tomorrow we should expect another group of Ghanaians from South Africa arrive. What it means is that in all, as it were, we are expecting about 1,000 more of Ghanaian nationals to arrive from South Africa as the anti-immigrant or anti-migrant process continue in South Africa, which is really raising a lot of concerns across the continent, with proposals for the African Union to table the xenophobic attacks on its agenda in their upcoming meeting.
So the 1,000 you talk about is for this batch alone?
Yes, so the country earlier evacuated over 979 nationals.
Yes.
Yes, and now the latest phase of the evacuation exercise is to bring home 1,000 of them. But as it were, each flight is going to take about or a little over 300 Ghanaians. And so that is what we are expecting, that as of now, those who have just arrived should be around 300 or a little over that. And then later today or tomorrow, we should have the next group of Ghanaians also arrive.
You talk about their London yet to disembark, but what is the current atmosphere where you are? Family members? What exactly is it?
Well, I do not see family members here as of yet, but what I know, as part of government measures to reintegrate these nationals into the country as they return, part of the measures rolled out includes relief packages and immediate efforts by NADMO to provide blankets, staple food items, and the rest. So I see NADMO officials who are here in their identifiable vests, as well as other security officials who are here. I also see officials from the Foreign Affairs Ministry who are equally here facilitating the arrival and the process. What I know is that it is currently a very calm atmosphere, and I also see that a special place has been designated for more or less like a proper welcome address where you have all the Ghanaians who have arrived seated, and then there is a table where officials would address them from to more or less streamline the protocols, where to get well. You know that as part of the protocols and the relief package that I mentioned, once they arrived, and as we saw in the earlier ones, once they arrived, government would immediately issue some funds for their immediate upkeep and whatnot. So this forum, as it were, would help to coordinate all of that. And then those who would be moving to other aspects or other places in the country would proceed as well to get their buses, and then they would move. What I'm yet to know is whether government is going to provide these buses or they would have to find their way. But I know that earlier ones, in the earlier evacuation exercises, buses were provided to send these Ghanaian nationals, some to Kumasi, some to Tamale, and the other parts of the country. And so we are here. It is a calm atmosphere. Officials are set. Everyone is ready. The media as well have pitched a camp at a designated place where they can see the nationals arrive or walk through, the terrain to come up here to film and all of that. And so it is well coordinated and everything is under control as we await them to, alight from the aircraft.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Christian Yale, a man currently at the Accra International Airport waiting for the Ghanaians who have been evacuated from South Africa. And of course, we'll bring you more as and when we have the latest from there. Meanwhile, two Ghanaians who petitioned the International Criminal Court, ICC, over the recent xenophobic violence in South Africa say that President Cyril Ramaphosa's apology and the reported arrest of a leading anti-immigrant campaigner are welcome, but do not go far enough. In a joint statement, former government spokesperson on governance and security, Dr. Paul Boachidankwa, and security analyst Emmanuel Cotin say that South Africa's response came only after lives had been lost, families displaced, and businesses destroyed. They contend that while the apology and arrest are important developments, they do not amount to the comprehensive accountability required under international law. And hopefully shortly we should be bringing you some updates on this and some quick analysis on this. In other news, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union ICU has called on President John Mahama to immediately intervene and halt the proposed sale of the Volta Aluminium Company, Valco. The union says that any attempt to sell the company could lead to massive job losses, worsening the country's unemployment situation. The General Secretary of the ICU, Morgan Ayawene, made the call when workers of Valco embarked on a demonstration to demand the suspension of plans to sell the company earlier today.
Of collapse, and many other state-owned enterprises are now running more efficiently. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge the TUC and organized labor not to sit back and look on aloof when management and governing boards are mismanaging their enterprises, because when these enterprises collapse, it is the workers that suffer the most. So when you see things going wrong, don't sit aloof. Point it out and make sure corrections are done. Unquote. In the spirit of these commitments and in recognition of His Excellency's reputation as a listening president, we respectfully call upon him to intervene decisively to halt the proposed sale of Valco and ensure that this strategic national asset remains under the ownership and control of the people of Ghana. I say it should be under the control of the people of Ghana, because this is one of the greatest assets that were bequeathed to Ghanaians by the first president of the Republic of Ghana, the late Osagifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And we are saying that what the white man can do, and indeed, Valco was established jointly by the white people and Ghana government during the tenure of office of His Excellency Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
And you heard that the General Secretary of the ICU, Morgan Ayawane. Meanwhile, the Tema Metropolitan Chief Executive, Ebby Bright, who received a petition from the leadership of the ICU on behalf of the President, has assured the workers that the government will engage them to address their concerns and find an amicable resolution to the issues raised.
The President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I want to thank you for the peaceful manner of your march to the government premises of the city of Tema. I want to thank the security forces for providing protection not only for you as citizens of Tema, but also for us, and to ensure that this has taken place. As large as the numbers are, as forcefully as your presence is felt, very peacefully. That is important. I take a lot of comfort in what I hear from your submission, that this is not only in concern for preserving the dignity and integrity and power of the Republic of Ghana, but also in recognition that under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the appointees that he has put in place to oversee the affairs of institutions, especially state-owned enterprises, you are beginning to see the results and the effects of that good governance. You say that we're beginning to reap the rewards of the new trend. So it is also an admission of your faith and your trust in the capability of Ghanaians, especially under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to produce good and better results through our enterprises for the Ghanaian and for the state. So in good faith, we will send this message across, and I want to reassure you that this is a listening government, and that no matter what, you must keep faith in the good intentions and the resolve to reset, not only reset the nation, but to ensure jobs, prosperity, and economic viability.
And I heard Ebby Bright. She is the Metropolitan Chief Executive of Tema. And we're joined by Daniel Opoku, who is our Labour Affairs correspondent. Daniel, we had the representative of ICU as well as the MC for Tema. What's the way forward, really, beyond what we've had?
So the leadership of ICU will be having a series of engagements with other key stakeholders. For instance, the Minister of Labour, and also some key partners from the state of government. And they also be having a National Executive Council meeting on Friday. Basically, they have given some kind of a respite for government to step in immediately. Within this space, government should be able to resolve the problem. Beyond next week, then obviously we are going to have a series of actions on the labour front that clearly going to affect the operations and activities of Valco.
But listening to the MC for the area, did it sound like the people were assured that indeed the government is working towards meeting their demands?
Right. So when I listen to the MC, clearly she has renewed and reaffirmed government's commitment to ensure that indeed government is ready to resolve their problem. And for her, she was very elated because the leadership of workers presented a petition officially to her. And she has told them that she's going to facilitate a meeting and be able to resolve concerns raised by the leadership of the workers, including the general workers, obviously. And when I look at the sale agreement, when the investor comes in, the investor will take in excess of 70%. And ICU is of the view that that clearly means that workers are going to be affected, and also the operations are going to also be affected. So when they sit around the table, government should be able to look at the way forward, put a lot of capital investment, do some kind of overhauling of Valco so that the workers, there will be some kind of respite or some kind of peace on the industrial front at Valco.
And their time limit is any moment from next week if nothing is done about it.
Rightly so, because that's when the National Executive Council meeting will be held on Friday. And within today is Monday, so between tomorrow up to Thursday, government through the Sector Ministry of Labour and Employment and also through their key ministry, that's the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, to be able to sit down with them and resolve the problem before it gets to next week. Beyond Friday, then the National Executive Council meeting will take another step action, meaning that they are going to have a lot of a series of actions on the labor front, and clearly that's going to mar the current peaceful industrial climate that government is enjoying now.
Thank you very much, Daniel Opoku, our Labour Affairs correspondent, bringing us update on this. In an earlier interview, the board chairman of Valco, Horace Ankra, said the company is not up for sale.
Under John Dramani Mahama and his vision for industrialization, Valco that has been in deficit for so long is now seeing profit.
How much of profit did you make?
I don't have the right figures, but I know that in the last month we made over
In the last month?
Yeah, we made over $3.1 million profit.
I see.
Yeah. So Valco is not running at a loss. Valco is turning around by the vision of the president. Valco is turning around by the efforts being made by the current management and the workforce. Valco is being turned around by the current board that we have in place. Valco has turned around. Valco has to be appreciated.
If the current administration, without putting any money in, because as of now, we don't know that the John Mahama administration has put any money into Valco. And as you have said, by Valco's own doing, you have been able to turn around your story, and for a month, you made $3.1 million, not in revenue, but in profit. My question is, if we have that story, why do we need investors?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, you could be making profit and you could need an investor because of probably where you want to get to and the timeline. You understand? But the conversation of the kind of investors that probably is being turned out towards Valco is because the true story has not been told.
What is the true story?
The true story now is that Valco is not a deficit. Valco is a profit-making machine.
And you heard the board chairman of Valco, Horace Ankra, in an earlier interview. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. When we come back, we'll bring you some more. Stay with us. Some 19 minutes past the hour of 12. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Now, about 6 in every 10 NDC supporter wants President John Mahama to seek a third term. That's according to the latest Global Info Analytics poll. Nationally, however, support drops to 40%, while 50% oppose the proposal. Meanwhile, the NDC National Chairman Johnson Esiedun Katia has narrowly edged Finance Minister Dr. Kasia Latoforsen as a preferred candidate to lead the party in 2028. Esiedun Katia secured 31.3%. Compared with Atoforsen's 30.8%, placing the two in a virtual dead heat. The government's no-fee stress policy also emerged as its highest-rated initiative, scoring 6.1 out of 10, ahead of the Big Push program, with the government's 24-hour economy recording lowest rating. Let's speak to Musa Dankwa. He's Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Your polls show that 63% of NDC supporters back calls for President Mahama to seek a third term, but national support falls to 40%. What does this tell us about the difference between sentiment within the NDC and indeed the mood of the wider electorate, as in nationally?
Look, there were two polls on the third term. The first one is support for Mahama's decision not to contest. On that score, 65% of voters backed his decision not to contest, whereas 27% do not back him on that. Now, on the party lines, 59% of NDC people back him on his decision not to contest. And in fact, across party lines, everyone backs him. The challenge is with those who are calling for a third term. 50% disagree with those who are calling for him to go for a third term. 40%, however, agree with those calling for him to go for a third term. And 10% do not have an opinion. Now, when you come to the party lines, then that is where you have only the NDC who are in majority supporting those calling for a third term. Every other voting bloc is opposed to the third term. It means that on the push for Mahama to go for third term, NDC will be on their own. MPP are against it, floating against it, other parties are against it, and so are those who don't tell us their party affiliation. So here, NDC stands alone.
What triggered this very survey? Because we've had the president on multiple occasions say that he's not interested in going for a third term. So why was there the need to still have a survey anyway?
But wouldn't you want to have what proportion of people agree with him than not knowing percentages? We resolve issues with percentages. Now we know that 65% of people agree with him. Before this poll, did you know how many agree with him? We didn't know.
But at least we knew that a lot of supporters of the NDC were calling for him to go for a third term, which was why he came out to say that he didn't need a third term. He was okay with fulfilling his second term, according to what the Constitution said. By how much?
We didn't know. A lot. By what percentage did we know? We didn't know. Now we know it is 83%. And 31% of them oppose it. So now we can put figures to the discussion.
And even with the data, based on what you said, if I got you correctly, it is only NDC supporters who are in support of a third term idea. That's what you said?
Absolutely. Before, we were made to understand that everybody's calling for it. Now we know it's not everybody.
Indeed. Beyond that, Johnson Asiedu Nkatia obtained 31.3%, while Atoforsin secured 30.8%, a difference of just half a percentage point. Given the poll's margin, though, of error, is it accurate to describe Asiedu as leading, or should this be treated as a statistical tie?
It's a statistical tie.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the actual vote in between them, Asiedu Nkatia leads by 17 votes, 1-7. So this is a tie race.
But earlier, okay, go ahead, please.
If you look at the vote by party line, Asiedu Nkatia gets 29% of MPP support, and Atoforsin gets 20%. Haruna gets 22%. When it comes to NDC, Asiedu Nkatia gets 36%, Atoforsin 33%, almost tied in terms of margin of error for such subgrouping.
Earlier,
when it comes to floating voters, this poll is unique. This is the first baseline poll of telephone voters we will track going forward. That's why we're not comparing this to any data we have done in the past. But those were different approaches.
Okay, then that answers my question. But just for you, before you go, the no-fee stress policy emerged as the government's highest rated initiative, while 24-hour economy received the lowest. But also, we know that based on the information you brought us, the big push rather fell behind the no-fees initiative. Any reason behind these statistics coming out?
Okay. You know, with the no-fee policy, it is immediate. You know, people have enjoyed it. Big push is still work in progress. So fairly, I think they are right in judging it the way they have judged it. We have not seen a complete road come into fruition under the big push yet. So that must explain it.
Indeed. And obviously the 24-hour economy is yet to start, and so the low
Absolutely.
rating.
And also there is the Women's Bank.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Dankwa, for speaking to us.
My pleasure.
And I had Musa Dankwa, he's Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Now, tempests are flaring in Salmon, a mining community in the Elembele district of the Western region. Months after government revoked Adamu's Resources mining license, residents say the company's allies are staging fake support to win it back. But the community insists no one speaks for them but them. Irama Smith has the rest of the story.
For months, The salmon community has been at odds with Adamu's resources over what they describe as environmental damage and broken promises. Now, a new front has opened, a war of words over who truly speaks for the youth of the land. The conflict erupted after publications surfaced claiming community groups had endorsed the company. But the so-called true youth of Salman are hitting back hard, dismissing those claims as a manufactured PR stunt. They are specifically rejecting groups like the Youth Movement of Salman and the Citizens Advocates Group, calling them appendages of the mining firm.
We have not endorsed and we will never endorse the activities and operations of Adamus Resources Limited. Our position remains unchanged. We totally reject the irresponsible behavior, environmental degradation, broken promise, and disrespect to community engagement that have characterized Adamus operations in our land. For a crackdown of illegal mining and also to operate corporate mining that act illegally, the destruction of our water bodies, farmlands, future cannot continue under the covert of mining leases.
Government revoked Adamus's mining leases over violations including illegal foreign labor and unauthorized subcontracting, illegal mining, corporate included, and bring in a responsible new investor.
Salma is open to responsible mining investment, but not under the current Adamus arrangement.
Irama Smith brought us staff report. The wife of former National Food Buffer Stock Company NAFCO Chief Executive Hanan Abdul Wahab is seeking permission from the High Court to travel to the United Kingdom to facilitate medical treatment for their son, Faiza Seydewuni, who is standing trial alongside her husband in an alleged financial loss to the state case, is asking the court to vary her bail conditions to allow the trip. The application is scheduled to be heard on Tuesday, July 28. The prosecution has questioned the timing of the request, noting that it comes just weeks after Mr. Aludiba filed a similar application to travel abroad on medical grounds. The defense, however, insists that the application is solely to enable Mrs. Wuni to secure medical care for their son. Both accused persons have pleaded not guilty to the charges and remain on bail. The court will determine only the travel application while the substantive criminal case continues. Now, it's a packed court this afternoon as NPP stalwart, including former national chairman Freddie Blay and leader in parliament, Ose Chairman Sabonsu, lent their support to convicted NPP Ashanti regional chairman Bernard Enchibo in his 30 million cedi Exim Bank fraud case. The parties are expected to provide the court with an update on the plea negotiation. Chairman Wontumi is facing, among others, charges of defrauding by false pretenses, forgery and money laundering. He has initiated a plea deal with the Attorney General. Other persons present to support the NPP executive are Ofuasia Yubi MP, Kojo Ponkroma, Richard Ahiagba, Samia Wuku, Anthony Kabo, and Jefferson Saki, and Dennis Miracles Abuaje. That's it for the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Coming up shortly is Business Daily with Bismarck Awusa.
Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, IMF Executive Board meets today to decide on Ghana's final $380 million bailout disbursement and approve new 3-year reform program to sustain economic recovery. Also ahead, CD comes under renewed pressure as corporate dollar demand strains FX supply. We'll bring you details. Plus, policy analyst Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom says 2026 mid-year budget reflects economic stability but falls short of real transformation.
Between stabilization and transformation is quite weak. I said this on the background that yes, the numbers are telling a good story, but the average Ghanaian complains of their lives not being better.
I am Bismarck. Also, will bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, is expected to meet today to consider Ghana's 6th and final review under the Extended Credit Facility Program. This decision is expected to unlock a final disbursement of about $318 million and formally conclude the country's 3-year IMF bailout program. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report. The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board is expected to meet today to consider and approve Ghana's 6th and final review under the Extended Credit Facility Program. Approval of the review is expected to unlock a final disbursement of about $318 million to the Bank of Ghana, bringing the country's 3-year IMF-supported program to a successful conclusion. The board is also expected to consider Ghana's request for a new 36-month Policy Coordination Instrument, or PCI. Unlike the Extended Credit Facility, the new arrangement does not provide direct financial support. Instead, it offers policy guidance and closer engagement with the IMF to help sustain macroeconomic stability, deepen structural reforms, and strengthen investor confidence. The meeting follows a staff-level agreement reached in April after an IMF mission to Accra. Government is understood to have met the required quantitative and structural benchmarks, including reforms involving UMB Bank and Prudential Bank, paving the way for board approval. Finance Minister Dr. Kasel Atforson says the new policy coordination instrument will focus on fiscal consolidation, debt sustainability, stronger monetary and exchange rate policies, financial sector stability, improved governance, and economic diversification, with the aim of preserving Ghana's recent macroeconomic gains and supporting long-term economic growth. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on IMF Executive Board meeting today to decide on Ghana's final $318 million bailout disbursement and approved new 3-year reform program to sustain economic recovery. Moving on, the cedi has come under renewed pressure, weakening by about 0.96% over the latest week as persistent corporate demand for dollars and a heavily oversubscribed Bank of Ghana foreign exchange auction exposed continued strain in the local currency market. The cedi moved from approximately 11 cedis 50 pesos to the US dollar to about 11 cedis 61 pesos, making it the most notable currency under pressure among selected African countries or markets tracked in the latest regional foreign exchange update. The renewed weakness comes at a delicate moment for Ghana's macroeconomic recovery. After a period of relative currency stability, the latest movement suggests that underlying demand for foreign exchange remains strong, particularly from corporates in the energy and commerce sectors. Now, Ghana's construction sector is expected to record stronger growth this year. Fitch Solutions projects an acceleration in construction activity despite global uncertainties triggered by geopolitical tensions. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
The UK-based research firm says growth will remain relatively resilient over the medium term, although it is expected to ease slightly to 5.1% in 2026 and 4.5% in 2028. The latest outlook places Ghana 7th among sub-Saharan African economies with the highest construction GVA growth, outperforming larger markets such as Nigeria, Angola, and South Africa. Ethiopia tops the regional rankings, followed by Cote d'Ivoire and Uganda. Across the region, Fitch has revised Sub-Saharan Africa's 2026 construction growth forecast downward to 4.3%, citing the economic impact of the US-Iran conflict. Even so, the firm says the region will remain the fastest growing construction market globally, significantly outperforming the projected global construction growth rate of 1.2% this year. Fitch Solution also expects Sub-Saharan Africa's construction industry to expand by an average of 5.1% annually between 2026 and 2030, supported by sustained infrastructure investment and long-term development projects.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also at some other stories, Senior Fellow at Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom says Ghana's economic stability has failed to translate into real transformation, describing the process as weak. Reacting to the 2026 mid-year budget review, Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom noted that while macroeconomic indicators show signs of stability, the impact on growth, jobs, and structural change remains limited. He called for stronger policy interventions to convert stability into tangible development outcomes for citizens.
Translation mechanism between stabilization and transformation is quite weak. I said this on the background that yes, the numbers are telling a good story, but the average Ghanaian complains of their lives not being better. It's ripe, and we see it almost every day. You go to the market and things are relatively cheaper, but you cannot afford it. The basic reason is that your disposable income, there's pressure on it. What are the pressures? Number one is your utility bills. Utility bills increase cumulatively is over 20% from January to now. If we check, the electricity, water bill was increased around 15% in January. In April it was increased, and in June too there has been some increment. So utility bills are taking a huge part of your income. Then you come to rent. Rent prices keep going up, and these are the basic necessities. You need a place to stay, you need the light on, you need the water to be on, to be able to think about other things. So if these things take a huge portion of household income, then they will have less disposable money to spend on other things, and let alone to invest.
And that was Senior Fellow at Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom. Before we go, government secured its 5th consecutive oversubscription on the domestic market on July 24, 2026. This follows investors offering 12.37 billion cedis against a target of 9.492 billion cedis across the 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day tenors.
Government accepted 11.545 billion cedis of bids, representing a subscription rate of 130.3%, an oversubscription of 30.3% above target, and an acceptance rate of 93.3% of total bids received. The strong turnouts came just after the 2026 mid-year budget review and signals sustained investor confidence in government paper. The 91-day bill received 2.952 billion cedis in offers, with 2.602 billion cedis accepted at 5.78%. The 182-day bill saw 1.307 billion cedis in bids and 1.121 billion cedis accepted at 7.68%. Demand was heavily skewed towards the long end as the 360-40 bill attracted 8.112 billion cedis in bids, and government took 7.821 billion cedis at a yield of 12.96%. The yield curve reflects a clear preference for longer tenors as investors lock higher returns amid inflation and fiscal risk expectations. The 7.18% point gap between the 91-day and 364-day rates shows the market is demanding a significant premium to commit funds for 1 year. While the oversubscription gives government room to meet its financing needs without resorting to the external market, the high cost of the 364-day borrowing at nearly 13% will add pressure to debt servicing in the second half of the year.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on government recording 5th straight oversubscription as investors pump 12.37 billion cedis into treasury bills amid 2026 mid-year budget review. And that brings us to the end of Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company.